Hello everyone, my name is Cletus and welcome to my YouTube channel, and let's get into this video. Anyways guys, as you know that we are back at the North Gauteng High Court where Khaya Ncathe is on the stand and he just wrapped up his testimony. But I just want to say something about the two witnesses that took the stand today, is that I don't think I want to spend too much time on their testimony because they are just eyewitnesses. They were not present in that house. So if I am not going into details about whatever it is that they had said in the court, is because I feel like they are not that important to me. However, there are some few things that they had said that caught my attention, especially the contradictions as well as the untruthfulness that I also picked up from both the witnesses. So let's start with Khaya Ncathe's testimony as he was wrapping it up, is that he mentioned the fact that when he heard a scuffle that was going on in the Khumalo household, of course he wanted to go and investigate and see what is going on, because he says in his testimony he heard what sounded like pushing and shoving and falling off a ceramic object on the floor. So he went and peeped through the kitchen door, which Zandile disputes and says that the house has two small windows, and one of the small windows is the kitchen window, where the window in the kitchen is half covered by a cupboard, and also it has a curtain. It's impossible that Khaya would have seen through that window. Of course, Khaya said that no, he could see through the window because number one, it was dark, it was already at night. Number two, the curtain was laced. And number three, there was illumination in the kitchen, and therefore he could see in that space that was left, or because Zandile says half of the window is covered by a cupboard, so the other half is clear for Khaya to see into the kitchen. And Khaya said he saw a person wearing a white t-shirt. It could not tell the face of the person. We know from Zandile's testimony that Senzo Maye was wearing a white t-shirt and blue jeans. So of course you and I can assume that that was Senzo Maye that Khaya saw through the kitchen window. On that one, I do believe Khaya that indeed he did see Senzo, okay, that person that was up against the wall. At this point, I think Senzo Maye was not shot yet. Because Khaya says that when he was done, he went back home. But when he went back home, this is when he and his father, this is Ncathe Sr., hears a gunshot. When they hear a gunshot, they take a steel rod and then they go to investigate as to what is happening in the Khumalo household. But as they were going there, they see a man jumping into their yard. And then, of course, they were about to hit him with the iron rod when he said, "No, please don't hurt me and don't accuse me. Senzo Maye has been shot." But the man jumps back to the danger zone and goes into the Khumalo house. What is up with that? The second thing that I picked up from Khaya Ncathe is that after they heard that there was somebody that ran out of the Khumalo house into the park, they all, as the community, they tried to run after the perpetrator into the park, but they did not see anybody. Now, what really saddened me and still gives me chest pains is the fact that when he came back to the Khumalo house, he went into the kitchen and saw Senzo Maye lying face up. Now, in Zandile's testimony, she said that when she peeped through the bathroom door where she was hiding, she saw Senzo staggering into the living room, and he went between the sofa and the TV stand, followed by Kelly Khumalo and her mother. Now, Khaya says when he returned from the park, Senzo was lying on the kitchen floor faced up with a wound on his chest. Contradiction? Yep. And I think, once again, Khaya's testimony there is credible. Let's talk about Senzo Maye lying there on the kitchen floor. I'm not quite sure how long he's been shot at this point, because if Khaya manages to run down the road looking for the perpetrator or the shooters and then comes back to the Khumalo house and Senzo is still lying on the kitchen floor after being shot, how long do you think, if you can estimate, 10 minutes? 15? Because that's a long time for an ambulance not to be there already. That is also a very long time, not the police being there already. Considering the fact that Ncathe Sr. used to be a policeman, you can't tell me that he does not have any influence in any of the police stations in Vosloorus. That's just my thought. And the saddest part for me is what Senzo Maye must have been going through. What must he have been thinking why he is still lying on the floor with a bullet wound that has penetrated through his chest? I'm assuming at this point somebody has a towel or something putting pressure on the wound so that it does not bleed out to death. So for me, when it comes to Khaya Ngqatshe, those are the things that I felt were important. The contradiction between him and Zandile Khumalo. However, though, as Khaya Ngqatshe himself, I felt that he was also withholding some of the truth because there is no way that he did not hear some whispers. Okay, maybe that is hearsay, it's not going to be admissible in court. But I felt that he was also coached on this script on what to say. But because I felt that he's an honest person, he then said what he saw that particular night. And there was no any other way he could have added spice or remove some of the spices out of this soup that they were cooking. And the other thing that I also took note of is the fact that Advocate Lolo tried to ask the witness about Senzo Maye lying there on the kitchen floor and nobody paying any attention or giving him medical attention. However, the judge did interject, very irritated, almost angry at Advocate Lolo for the notion of saying that Senzo Maye was lying there and nobody was taking care of him. And he also reminded her that you must remember in Zandile's testimony, she said she ran out of the house and went to Mapiri to get them to call the police and the ambulance. So it is not correct to say that Senzo Maye was left there to his own device. But I understood Advocate Lolo's context when she was asking this question, because she was trying to poke holes about the time frame that somebody is shot and then people are still able to run around and then others are able to come back from the park running after a perpetrator whom I believe they would still have searched before they gave up the search and came back home. Then witness number 3, this is Nthabiseng Mokete. According to the old list, she was witness number 26. I felt that Nthabiseng was being untruthful most of the time. And at the same time, I could also pick up the church lady type of nature in her that, okay, I know that I'm telling lies, because you could hear it from her voice that she does not approve of what she is saying, because this is how she was coached, so that somebody does not go to jail. Or maybe she was afraid that if she testified the truth, they may never speak to her again. I don't know what was her angle when she took the stand, because I picked up a lot of untruthfulness from her. However, though, she would slip here and there, and those are the slippings that I felt that were important for the court to admit into evidence. Somebody said I speak way too fast, so I'm going to try my level best to speak as slow as I can. The reason why I speak this fast is because I'm trying to catch up with my brain. If I don't catch up with my brain, I will just cut this entire video and I'll continue. So I need to keep up with how my brain works. That is why I speak really, really fast. So I do apologize for speaking way too fast if you cannot hear what I'm saying. So now let's get into Nthabiseng Mokete's testimony. She says that she and a friend, whom now we know is Yolanda, they were sitting in the car having a conversation when they heard a gunshot. And she tells Yolanda, this is Nthabiseng, tells Yolanda that it's a gunshot. She says that they even had a bit of a debate about whether there was a gunshot or not a gunshot. But immediately after the first gunshot went off, they saw somebody coming out of the Khumalo house, and then they ran down the road towards the park. Basically ran towards them, past them, down into the park. And then they heard a second gunshot, and this time around they even debated some more that this is a gunshot. And then 2 men came out of the Khumalo house, and then they ran towards them, past them, into the park as well. So in my mind, I'm thinking, so why are y'all still in the car? Because for me, if I see one person running, I'm not concerned. But if I see 2 people running, yeah, I'm running along with them. That's just me. Because I don't know what the danger is that they are running away from. Especially if I also heard something that sounded somewhat like a gunshot, I would take cover too. Now, according to Zandile Khumalo's testimony, we never heard of anybody running out of the house except for Longwe after he pushed suspect number 1 and he staggered backward and he was gone through the kitchen door and never returned. Now, it's quite surprising to hear Mketi says that 3 people came running out of the house. So in my mind, I'm thinking, okay, great. Then she will be able to identify the 3 men. Right there before her, she's spoiled for choice. There are 5 men that stand accused for the murder of Senzo Meyiwa. Can she point at who did she see amongst these 5 men? Okay, maybe she will do it tomorrow when she continues with her testimony, but I had hoped that today she was going to point and say, accused number 1, accused number 2, and accused number 5 are the men that I saw coming out of the Khumalo house and they ran into the park because they passed right in front of us as they were running, because she says she remembers that one of them was wearing a hoodie, the other one had dreadlocks. So if you are able to have seen all of that, surely you would also have seen their faces. So there are 5 men stand accused of the murder of Senzo Meyiwa. They are right there in court. Point them out. Who did you see amongst the 5? The third thing that I picked up from Thapsang Moketi's testimony is the contradiction. The contradiction about when they were at the hospital. Zandile Khumalo testified that after Senzo Meyiwa was declared dead by the doctor, she, meaning Zandi, her mother, and Khumalo and some other people hopped onto the car and went back home, meaning back to the crime scene. But in Thapsang Moketi says, after Senzo Meyiwa was confirmed dead, she and Ma Khumalo, meaning Kelly and Zandile Khumalo's mother, drove back to the crime scene, where Ma Khumalo took a hat that belonged to one of the intruders. So there I see that she slipped up and told the truth, because I think when they were being coached, she was told that, listen, we all went home. Nobody remained behind except from Togo. The fourth thing that I also picked up from Thapsang's testimony is Chico Twala's call. Chico Twala calls in Thapsang's phone, whom I believe that at some point she did give to Kelly Khumalo. I think she did say she gave her phone to Kelly Khumalo earlier on. I think this is where Kelly Khumalo had called Chico Twala. Now the question is, why call Chico Twala? What does he has to do with what is going on right now? Because at the end of the day, Chico Twala has an adult child and he has to live his life. Whatever he does out there in the world, he needs to pay those consequences or take the rewards for it. I also picked up from Thapsang is when they returned back to the crime scene, she and Ma Khumalo were in her bedroom. They were just discussing whatever it is that they were discussing while the forensic was busy checking out things in the house, including the kitchen. In Thapsang, at some point, she said, I don't know, she went to fetch water for Ma Khumalo or whatever the case was, and then she saw something silvery on the floor. It looked like a small object about 2 centimeters long, and I'm assuming she's talking about a bullet shell. And then in my mind, I'm thinking, if forensics are in the house, the first thing they will be looking for is a bullet shell. Why is the bullet shell is still sitting there unattended to a point where Thapsang is the one that sees it and points it out to the police that I believe this is what you are looking for? Where the other 2 casings? I'm very interested to know about that as well. So anyways, it was quite interesting to also hear from Thapsang that when they went to the hospital, they followed the exits. Everybody was hysterical. They were crying, they were panicking. And so, of course, the nurse had to look for, and the nurse in the hospital had to look for somebody that looked calm. And of course, it wasn't Thapsang. She was called into the ward nearby Senzo Meyiwa where he was being resuscitated. And they wanted to know some few details from Thapsang. Thapsang said, no, I am not the correct person to be talking about this matter. Rather speak to, then of course, I think when she was about to say whoever they needed to speak to, the doctor came out of that next room and declared Senzo Meyiwa having passed on. He says that they've done everything they could to save him, but he had passed on. And now it was Nthabiseng's job to make this announcement to Kelly Khumalo, Zandile Khumalo, and all the Khumalos, and Mtogo Tumelo, and everybody that was outside. And of course, she said she could not pick up any strength to make this announcement. So she called, I think, her friend Yolanda, because she's more braver to make this announcement to the Khumalos and the friends. I thought that part was very truthful of Nthabiseng and quite wholesome at the same time. But at the same time, I'm thinking the hospital should have actually called for the next of kin to deliver such news. I felt that the hospital itself was a little bit careless in giving such information to a non-family member. Anyways, guys, if you like this video, give it a like. If you didn't like the video, give it a like. Anyways, do subscribe to my channel if you are not subscribed yet, and don't forget to click the bell notification so that you get notified every time I upload a new video. Do leave me a comment down below and let me know what did you think about the testimony of the Ngache as well as Nthabiseng Moketi. I would highly appreciate it if you shared this video far and wide. Also, my super thanks are turned on, and thank you so much to everybody that are super thanking me, because guys, this is hard work that we put into these videos. And lastly, I just want to say I would like to see you again in my next video. Goodbye.